Hello, Spartan fans, and welcome back to another edition of the Spartan Sideline Report here on NSUSpartans.com. I'm Mike Bello, the Assistant Sports Information Director, and I'm joined now by the interim head coach of the men's basketball team, Robert Jones. And Coach Jones, it was a very whirlwind day when Coach Evans first announced that he was leaving for FIU. He went in Athletic Director Marty Miller's office, told him he was leaving. You were named interim coach just a few hours later. Take us through that day from your perspective and basically how it all went down.
That day was actually, an incredible day. Started off at 9:41. Coach Evans called me and said that he has a new job, and I asked him, where? And he said FIU. He said, "Can you come to the office?" So I got dressed, came to the office about 11 o'clock. He told me to assemble the guys, for a 12:30 meeting. And then at 12:30 he came in. He announced to the guys and the rest of the coaches that he was leaving, and he kind of, said his farewell speech. Directly after the meeting, Marty Miller came in and he had a meeting with the team while myself and Coach Vickers talked to Coach Evans a little bit about our future. And he said that he was going to try to go and speak on our behalf to get me this position now because he felt that I deserved it and I was ready. So I guess at the same time, Mr. Miller was asking the team what they thought. And then about 1:10, he called me into the office and he said, "Hey, you're going to be interim head coach. This is what we're going to do." It was like, he didn't ask me if I wanted the position. He didn't ask me to interview for it. He just said that the team said unanimously that they wanted me for the position. He said that he was thinking about me anyway, just in case Coach Evans did leave, because as we know, Coach Evans did a great job here, so he was a hot commodity. So he was already preparing for it, a little bit. So that's why it kind of happened so quick.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's one of those things where you're kind of always thinking about it. Evans actually interviewed last year with FIU.
Yeah.
Word was out there that he was interviewing with Maris, so you kind of knew that it's a possibility. So I'm sure in the back of your mind, you're thinking, okay, if Evans does leave, you may not know, you're not sure yet, but you're like, okay, if Evans does leave, this is kind of what I want to do.
Yeah, it definitely was. After being here 6 years and now actually going into my 13th year of coaching, I felt I was ready for this position. I felt I was ready a couple of years ago, maybe. Just the competitive nature that I have. But you kind of know that Coach, he had his hands in a few things, and someone was going to pull the trigger on him because he did such a great job here.
So, like you said, you've been coaching for 13 years. You've been here with Evans the whole time, the 6 years. So talk about the transition going from Evans to now you. Obviously you guys have different personalities. Mm-hmm. So what's the first thing people are going to notice different between Evans and you once they see you out there on the court coaching?
I think I'm a little bit more fiery on the sidelines than Coach was. Coach, he had his moments in practice that he was fiery, but on the sideline he was like the calmest, coolest guy on the face of the earth.
He's always there in
the crouch.
In his crouch, yeah.
I'm too tall to get in that crouch. But, I think that they'll see a little bit more animation from me on the sideline. If they happen to come to a practice, they'll see kind of the same fiery intensity that he had, maybe sustained a little longer throughout the practice instead of just in spurts. But as far as the team itself, myself and Coach Evans, we did a lot of things hand in hand as far as game planning and defense and offense. So a lot is not going to change from that perspective. One thing we're just trying to do, we do want to play a little faster because, the guys talked about it last year, and I think we have the athletes to do it. So you probably see us playing at a faster pace, but, as far as us changing the way we play, as far as, we're not going to change the way we press, we're not going to change the way we try to do a couple things on offense, but we will try to play a little faster.
Yeah, every time, if you ever sit near the NSU bench, I always can hear your voice, yelling, push it for the guys as soon as they get that rebound, you want to go up the floor. So I guess starting off, is it I guess you could say, it's such a smooth is it a really smooth transition, the fact that you have been here at the program for 6 years, all these guys have played under you, you've been here longer than any of the other guys that are currently on the team. Mm-hmm. So does that make it a lot easier transition for the players that they know you, they know Coach Vickers who's also staying, and that you're trying to keep pretty much the same system going, so does that make it a whole lot smoother transition?
Oh, I think so, definitely. I mean, also with us having, I think 11, letter winners or 10 letter winners coming back, there is some experience, and a lot of those guys I either recruited or I work out with, so there is a good rapport already in place for us to try to be successful.
And you talk about the 11 letter winners returning. I think that was a big thing too with AD Marty Miller was talking about it, that you guys are really set up next year to have a great year again. You had a great year this year. Obviously fell short of winning the MEAC title, but you have such a strong nucleus of players coming back. You're losing Rob Johnson, you're losing Chris Brown, A.J. Rogers and Christine Pugh, but you guys got such a strong core back, and a lot of those guys are going to be seniors next year, that next year is really kind of setting up to be a very strong team, just like it was this year.
Yeah, I think so, and I think, like I told the guys in our first meeting, that's what you're going to hear throughout the whole season. And on paper, it does look like a very strong team. But just like this year, Savannah State was supposed to look like a very strong team, and I think they fell 4th or 5th in the MEAC. So I don't want these guys to take it for granted that everyone's going to say that we're supposed to be good, because this year we weren't supposed to be good, and we were actually pretty good. So we're going to try to work hard every day to live up to expectations and try to win a championship.
Yeah, like you're saying, it's kind of the opposite of last year where we lost all those players, lost Kyle, lost those seniors, so everyone expected us to take a step back. Mm-hmm. Now it's the complete opposite where they're expecting us to, I guess you could say, take the next step forward, but we already finished 16-0. We'll talk about, you're losing a few of those seniors, so talk about you still got some recruiting to do, and obviously you can't talk about the specific players that you're recruiting unless they signed yet. So just talk about, what you're kind of looking for recruiting this class here in 2013, trying to finish that up.
Well, recruiting-wise, in 2013, we really only have probably 1 scholarship left. Technically we probably have 3, but some of those guys, the seniors, we're probably going to give, 2 of those guys a scholarship. So we'll have 1 left to bring in. And we're just looking for a guy who come in and score a little bit, whether he's a forward or a guard. Because with losing Rob Johnson and Chris Brown, you lose about 15 points a game, and that's significant. I mean, we averaged about 65, so you lose 15. That's almost 30% of the scoring. So we definitely need somebody to come in and score, at least replace some of those points.
Yeah, and you're talking about we're talking about the senior class for next year. You lose all those guys, so next year's recruiting class is going to be huge.
Yeah.
So there's a come a point where you start looking at kids who are finishing up their junior year of high school now, or kids that are going to be next year's recruiting class? I'm sure you got to get going on a head start on that.
Oh, we already have. I mean, all year we've been looking at 2014 players because we know how significant that class is with 7 players. That's half the team is going to be gone, so we need 7 guys to really come in and be able to play right away. We can't afford to have 7 guys who just come in and just a part of the team. We need 7 strong guys in that recruiting class, so we have looked at 2014 already.
And we're kind of stepping back here a little bit, but when you're named interim head coach, does that put a lot of pressure on you that, I haven't had the full-time gig yet this next year, 2013-14, is kind of going to be my test year. I got to prove to Marty Miller and everyone else that I can do this so I have the permanent job after next year. I mean, is that a lot of pressure on you to do that, or?
Oh, I mean, I would sit here lying and say it wasn't pressure. I think about it all the time. Also it fuels me a little bit, it makes me want to work that much harder to get the permanent tag. When Coach Evans had the interim tag when he first came here 6 years ago, it was lifted midway during the season because they saw, progress in the program, and hopefully I can do the same thing.
Yeah, and going into next year, 2013-14, obviously the guys are finishing up the classes now in the spring. But you're always looking towards next year. It's not like the guys just finish up classes next week and then they're gone and you forget about them. They're always thinking about basketball, always trying to get them working out. What have you kind of told them? Obviously once classes are over, once they finish with their finals, once they get that passed, what have you kind of told them as far as the summer, what their plans are to do? Working out. I mean, what's kind of been the plan there with those guys?
Well, a lot of those guys are actually going to stay for a first semester of summer school. So we're going to be able to work out with them a little bit, hands-on. After that, we'll give them a summer workout schedule just to complete the rest of the summer. And then, we're going to come back in August and get after it, full blast. But, those guys, they're very focused. I think, one of the best things that happened to us is, as crazy as it might sound to the outside world, is us not winning a championship this year, because now everyone has a chip on their shoulder and they want to, they have a sour taste from going 16-0 and not winning a championship. If we would have won 16-0 and won a championship, maybe the guys would have thought it was a cakewalk and maybe we can just go and do it again. But with us not winning a championship after winning a championship the year before, the guys are really, they're really, really hungry.
And with that big senior class, like you said, there's at least 7 of them there, big senior class. I'm sure they're realizing, hey, this is my last opportunity. We really got to step it up over the summer in our workouts and everything like that too.
Definitely. I mean, guys like Penny and Brandon Good, they know this is it. Malcolm, obviously, Malcolm came from a program at University of Delaware. At the time, wasn't that good, and he came here and won a lot of games his first year. So, the only thing he's missing, he feels, is to get to NCAA tournament. So he wants to do anything he can to get to the NCAA tournament.
And we talk about the summer workouts. You guys are allowed to work with them a little bit here and there, give them the schedule. But you're also, I mean, basically when Evans left and assistant coach Harold Rayford left, you're down 2 guys. So, you know, you and Coach Vickers are kind of doing a lot right now because you're trying to make up for the fact that you're missing some coaches. So what's kind of been the plan there as far as looking for, and who are you kind of looking for, not specific names, but the type of person you're looking for to help fill those assistant coaching roles?
Well, obviously when, you know, I was announced interim head coach, you get resumes from just about everyone. You know, you get guys who have a lot of experience, you get guys who have no experience. You know, the thing I'm looking for is not necessarily an experienced guy, because I think in some aspects experience is overrated. You know, even myself taking the position here, people say I have no collegiate head coaching experience, but I have been around this game 13 years, and I have been a head coach before on a different level. So, you know, I'm not necessarily looking for a guy with a ton of experience, just a guy who's going to come in, be a hard worker, be dedicated, be loyal. Also, a guy who's going to be a good recruiter, because I think, you know, kind of replacing me in a sense, because I did a lot of the recruiting over the past 6 years for the program with a lot of good players. So, kind of be able to come in and do the kind of same thing, and also looking for a guy that may be local, just to be able to do a little bit more community outreach and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it helps too to have a guy that's maybe got some local ties as well. To, you know, this area is pretty big with the talent in basketball. Moving forward here, the past couple of weeks, you know, you've been interim now for about 2 weeks or so. What have been kind of the things, the day-to-day things that you kind of had to do that you didn't, you know, maybe necessarily didn't have to do when Evans, you know, because Evans was the head coach, that now you're the head coach, or things that you didn't realize, all of a sudden I got more on my plate now that I'm a head coach? I mean, what's been kind of even if it's the little small things that, you know, you've got to do now?
Well, I have to do things like this.
Obviously.
that I didn't have to do before. But, you know, just from all the media, from the interviews, you know, the meetings with some of the, like the compliance and the academics that I didn't have to do all the time. You know, I would do it maybe sitting in for Coach Evans or every now and then, but just the day-to-day of just having to do everything. And also, like you said, with just myself and Coach Vickers here, you know, I can't really delegate duties. You know, it's everything either, you know, myself or him, you know, so it has been an adjustment in that aspect. You know, to me, basketball is basketball. That's going to eventually take care of itself. But just the day-to-day stuff is new. And,
you know, the head coach of any basketball program, especially Division I school, you know, you have to be out there in the community. You have to have people know you, from the super fans, you call them, to, you know, boosters and everything like that. So is that kind of a new part of something that you're experiencing, is, you know, having to get out there and meet the people that, you know, Evans kind of was the one that did that before?
Yes, I mean, the latter part of May to June, actually the early part of May as well, I'll be doing a lot of things in the community, getting out, speaking to different sports clubs, different clubs in general, you know, churches, organizations, just trying to do a little bit more community outreach than we have done in the past. You know, I think I'm going to have a decent personality. I think I'm a little bit more outgoing than maybe Coach Evans was. So I'm really looking forward to going out in the community and talking to a lot of people so they get to know me.
Yeah, and you already did actually with the Hampton Road Sports Commission. They had their little, they had their like a sports banquet or whatever, and you were there because you accepted the award for Penny for men's basketball offensive player of the year. So I mean, I guess there was an experience of getting to meet those people out there, the Hampton Road Sports Commission, the Norfolk Sports Club, those type of people that you really have to build great relationships to really thrive in this position.
Definitely, I think you know, currently I think a lot of people might view us as that we have a good basketball team, because we do have a good basketball team the last 2 years. But I really want to try to branch out, like I told Coach Vickers, and I told some prospective assistant coaches that we've been looking at, that I want to be able to branch out and have a good basketball program in all aspects, you know, whether on the floor, off the court, you know, in the community, things of that nature.
And one last question, speaking of the assistant coaches, do you guys have a timetable as far as when you want to hire them? I mean, obviously you don't want to rush into it, but do you have a timetable when you want those people to kind of be in place?
I definitely want them to be in place probably by mid-May, just so they can be here, they can take care of some administrative stuff, you know, as far as all the HR stuff and things of that nature. And then by the end of that, we can really get going into basketball stuff the latter part of May into June, and then obviously a big recruiting period in July.
We'd like to thank Coach Jones for joining us here today, getting your word out. And we'd also like to thank the NSU Department of Video and Media Production for their help here today. We'd also like to thank Coach Jones for stopping by. And I'm Mike Bello. Until next time, thank you for watching the Spartan Sideline Report here on NSUSpartans.com.